So the astrology of the week of 18 October 2021 through 24 October 2021, it's really a big turning point. I know we astrologers like to say that phrase, turning point, or other active phrases like that are kind of dramatic, but this one really is because we have two planets stationing direct. Jupiter and Mercury on the same day stop in the sky, get very powerful, and then start moving forward again. So it provides some momentum for our finishing act here of 2021. That's the big theme of this week. Let's get into the charts. Let's get into the week. I am S.J. Anderson. This is Weekly Astrology. Glad you're here. I do these videos every week. I like to just touch base with what's going on with the astrology of the week. A little bit of housekeeping before things begin. I'm sort of doing some shifts and some changes right now with my social media output, with my reading output. There's a lot of shifts coming for me. So this video is going to be a little bit shorter. I'm kind of trying to clean the grease, so to speak, or I guess that's the wrong phrase. Cut the fat might be a phrase. Hey, I like fat, but to kind of just tighten things up here and make things a little bit more efficient, a little bit shorter, a little bit easier on me. The other thing is that I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break from my in-person or my Zoom readings that I've been doing so consistently for almost 2 years now. So I'm taking December off. My website will be updated. I will be offering readings through a service called Hey Hero, which is, there are more mini readings, but you can still get me to speak to your chart and your life and pull some cards for you. It'll just be through a new medium. So that's a little bit of housekeeping, and I'm going to launch all that this week. So look for that if you're interested in getting a reading from me. Other than that, this video I'm going to basically make it the same, which is the aspects, the planetary aspects, the sign changes. I'm going to look at those for sure, the syzygies. Then I'll look at the moon sign changes. So those are the two things I'll do. But then my chronological chart examination is going to be truncated. I'm going to find the transit of the week, and I'm going to look at this syzygy. But I'm not going to break down in detail so many charts. I'm going to just sort of curtail that, try to make this a little bit more efficient, like I said, and a little shorter and a little bit more accessible. So, and then lastly, I'm going to pull a card. I think I'm just going to pull one card just to get a little bit of a touch with some of the cartomancy and some of the energy of cartomancy. But again, it's not going to be this kind of full, longer project. And I might continue to do this shorter segment. I think it works well, and it's more doable for me, like I said, for my work-life balance. So that's the housekeeping introduction. The other part of the introduction, I just wanted to point out, we've got Mercury and Jupiter stationing direct, like I mentioned, but this is that week where we start beginning a domino effect, in a way, of finishing off our time of Jupiter and Saturn's co-presence in Aquarius. Now both Jupiter and Saturn are direct after this week, and they're both moving forward into this kind of final climax of their time together. You have Mercury now, which will be moving fast through the signs, through Libra, through Scorpio, through Capricorn, and then it will station retrograde in Aquarius later at the end of this year and the beginning of next year, and then it has a retrograde back into Capricorn. That's one of the striking features of 2022's astrology, is that every Mercury retrograde starts in an air sign, ends in an earth sign, and so we're kind of bridging this gap, or we're connecting our air, our mind, and our earth, our tangible material manifestation. That'll be a big theme of next year because of how Mercury is retrograding. But again, to come back to this week in this kind of larger context, we're now moving into this climax of this year, and we get the Sun will enter Scorpio this week, which now starts setting up these squares to Saturn and Aquarius, which is a big theme of the tension of this fall. That happens this week, and then we're moving now into this kind of dynamic structure of the fall, which is, again, Jupiter and Saturn's co-presence finish. The massive squares between Scorpio and Aquarius, which is Mars and Saturn, will be squaring each other in two signs they rule. We're getting hints of that this week. And then eclipse season comes, and we have that Venus in Sagittarius, which has been activating the south node there in the Sagittarius sector. Eclipses are going to be coming. These final months, so I'm looking at October 17th as I speak, November, December, really 2.5 months of the year. It's going to be big. It's going to be intense. So that's the introduction. Let's dive now into the transits here. And look at this. I mean, just look here at it. 18th October, 7 in the morning, Jupiter stations direct. 18 October, 5 in the afternoon. These are Central European times. Mercury stations direct. These direct stations are like the precise moment, I guess, when it starts infinitesimally moving forward again. But Jupiter and Mercury have been still effectively in these degrees for a while. Jupiter for weeks, and Mercury for maybe days. But we're in it now. I mean, the standing still of these planets. And one thing I want to just say is that, like Mercury stationing direct, I've noticed I've been involved in a bunch of debates on Twitter about astrology and astrological theory. It seems to always happen when Mercury stations, particularly direct, because astrologers are signified by Mercury. The practice of astrology is a signification of Mercury, but it brings the intensity of those significations. And so you may be finding there's things that are just feeling more intense or climactic right now, this weekend and into next week. Here on the 18th, we're talking Monday. This is straight up Monday. So right out of the gate, we get the station here. On my notes, I've got Tuesday. Let me just correct that. Monday. So Jupiter and Mercury both station direct on Monday. Then Mars in Libra takes over. And this is the thing, that Mars is still in Libra. It's a big feature of the quality of the current time. Mars has fallen in Libra. The action, the passion, and the power has to filter through a more passive and a more connective sense. We're having to think about others, think about how we impact others, consider others when we are thinking of even acting, even understand that sometimes we can't act because of others, right? And so this is a big, just thematic brush that this whole week is being painted with, because Mars all week will still be in Libra, but Mars has a lot of responsibility this week. And so we get on Tuesday, Mars and Jupiter perfect this trine, this air trine. I think that will inject again another sense of how this week is about pushing and moving ahead. Jupiter, Mercury station direct. Mars, the planet of action and force, has a trine with Jupiter. Just as it's stationed direct, Mars is like pushing Jupiter into the future here. And then we get on Wednesday, this full moon culmination of the lunation cycle in Aries. Mars rules Aries, and Mars in Libra in particular rules Aries. It'll be opposite this full moon. And then coming on Saturday, we finally get Scorpio season beginning. Scorpio is ruled by Mars. And so Mars has this great responsibility here in its final time in Libra. Mars will enter Scorpio in about 13 days. So pardon me. So we've got this, like this martial side of considering other people, feeling maybe blocked with our action, acting on behalf of others. All of that type of Mars and Libra energetic infuses much of the second half of this week. And anytime you talk about Mars, no matter even if it's in Libra, we're dealing with the force of a power of action and what we want to inject into the reality. So those themes, I think, will begin becoming more prominent. And again, like I said, is climaxing, because Mars after this moves into Scorpio. And when Mars moves into Scorpio, it gets very powerful. And so the force of our actions will have great support from the sky weather and from the astrological weather. I think we're going to see some explosive stuff here in this. It's setting up now, if you read the news, where you have protests and all kinds of activism and massive force pushing into the collective energy. Wait until November, because that's going to get big. That's going to get even bigger than it already is. So this is how the aspects of this week are unfolding. It's kind of my summary of this week. It's about action, force, and moving ahead into these final climactic months of 2021. Let's shift. Let's see what the moon is doing here. Moon, where is it? It is going to be waxing until that Wednesday moment of the full moon. Then it will start to wane. And so early in the week, we have this kind of building phase and the building energy of this moon in Aries. I think that one other thing to mention about Mars I have written here, it's still under the beams of the sun. So Mars is being restricted from the sun kind of enveloping it with its flame. It kind of burns Mars out a little bit. and it's not visible. We can't see Mars. That's the astronomical and kind of tangible reality side of what under the beams means. We don't see Mars. We can't download, from Mars via a visual gazing strategy to get planetary energy. That's not available to us right now. And so this idea of a restricted action and maybe the frustration that comes from that is potentially going to be underscored during this full moon and this martial part of the week. Remember, when Mars enters Scorpio, it's still under the beams of the sun, but it's in what we call its chariot, because it's in degrees of the zodiac that Mars is very powerful in. So Mars will step into its chariot, even though it's not visible, on October 30th, and it will be unleashed on all of us. But this moment this week, with this waxing moon and this full moon, there's a sense of blocked energy. And so if you're feeling frustrated or blocked or delayed, remember Mercury will have just stationed direct, still in its shadow, and Mars ruling this syzygy, this full moon syzygy, is also a sense of maybe being blocked. So then we get the moon in Taurus, squared by Saturn in Aquarius, so it's flowing back, and we're flowing back into the Aquarius sector of the chart. We're still in a time in the sky where Saturn is the final dispositor. All planets are flowing back by rulership into Saturn, dominating the sky and the energy of the sky. And so I think this Taurus moon, this waning Taurus moon, is just a reminder of just how Saturn dominates coldness, restriction, separation, isolation, even economic stuff that's happening with people losing their jobs or leaving their jobs. And then the strikes and the kind of pushback to the authority that Saturn can be about. It's defining the reality. And so these Taurus moons, there is certainly a flavor of the comfort that comes with Venus, the home, the body, the selfhood, the pleasure. But we have to filter it back through this square. And we're reminded this kind of larger context of the great Saturn trigger in our reality that's descended upon us, starting in December 2017 when Saturn came into Capricorn, being activated in 2021 and shifting into Aquarius in 2020 and 2021, and now we're fully in this Aquarian, heavy-duty, day-sect, active Saturn that's coming to kind of put the smackdown on reality. That is having to be integrated with this waning Taurus moon. And then we get the waning Gemini moon. Maybe sometimes the thoughts here can serve us here. I was thinking about mental rest, as we can use the thought as a calming balm. I don't know about you, but even I'm reading this Murakami book of short stories that he just published, first person singular. Love these stories. Wow, he's really a good writer, and this translation's amazing. It's calming me just to go sit and read. This kind of deft prose that's very easy to engage with the mind. It actually gives my mind something to focus on. It's not the feed and the scroll. So maybe we can figure out how to use the mind and thought to calm during this Gemini moon. I think that's symbolically shown with the waning cycle of the moon, and then the moon being in Gemini, Mercury being direct. And let's just move now. 2 charts I want to look at. This is the first chart, culmination syzygy. Let's look at this full moon chart. I'm thinking about, as I'm now going to make my videos hopefully a little bit more efficient, less elongated, less verbosity, or what's the term? Less. There's a term for when you just talk a lot, and I can't think of it right now, and it's kind of I'll remember it here in a second. But less of that and more bloviation, less bloviation and more kind of focused importance. And I was thinking, well, what charts would I use? I always want to pick a transit of the week because I think that's something unique I can give. A lot of other people out there will be talking about the aspects that are happening. And so, but you have to talk about syzygies. There's no way around it, and it's a perfect way, in my view, to just check in with the energy, like a drum beat, like I always say, a drum beat or a strobe light of the reality. The syzygies, they kind of lock in energy, so we have to talk about it, even just briefly. So look at this combination syzygy, Mars in Libra, so it rules this full moon. And the other planet that rules the full moon is Saturn. So this Aquarian Saturn, I just spoke all about Saturn and Aquarius. And then this Mars, pretty closely opposing this full moon, and Mars joined here with the Sun, both Jupiter and Mercury now direct. And And Mars, Saturn sextiles. Saturn is sextiling Libra. Again, we go back to all of the stuff I've been speaking about recently about the air signs and how much of this moment is airy, technology, thought, ideas, implementation of the kind of business or digital. That's all a big part of this moment. I think we'll continue to see those themes emerge here with like how reality is mediated through screens, but there may even be anger. Mars is anger, and this frustration of being blocked. I can see there maybe being, this has been a huge theme, but a unique trigger here with this syzygy of more of this kind of online raging and disputes and debates and against the machine, right? Or for the machine, on behalf of the machine. Like people are raging for the machine and against the machine. It's a really strange moment. I like the geometry of this because you see every planet again in this syzygy is in a sextile, trine, or opposition. So the planets are very much dynamically exchanging here, and it can feel intense when that happens. You don't have these kind of mismatches in the sky. And Venus overcomes the full moon by a trine from Sagittarius, sweetening this moon. Jupiter, the other benefic, overcomes this full moon by a trine from Aquarius, sweetening this moon. So there's really a lot to like about this syzygy. I'm thinking this energy will be, there's some great mitigation here to that feeling of martial blockage and frustration where we have the kind of Jupiter parts of the sky right now, Jupiter itself and then Venus ruled by Jupiter flooding this full moon. And so just keep your hope in mind and your optimism. Life is a dynamic process. It's always unfolding. There's a lot of hope with these configurations, and I would encourage you to those visions, projecting your visions out into the future of what you want reality to be, of the good things you want about your life. All of this kind of, I'm huge on self-talk. Positive self-talk, positive visualization is a necessary and fundamental part of being a human in this realm, in my opinion. We have to watch the mind to make sure there's not, negativity invading us. Once we purify that, then we can replace with the sweetness and the sweet thinking. You find this in all kinds of spiritual traditions going back, the idea of replacement. Prayer is kind of like this, right? You do prayers, and those are often positive, like, I love you, God, help me, God, I love you, God, even mantra in traditions where you're doing replacement with thoughts or imagery. A lot of meditation schools, loving kindness meditation, one I practice in, it's all about giving the energetic of love and healing and embodying that mentally and with the mantra and energetically. So this to me feels very much with the air sign activation, but then with this benefic support, is how to be hopeful with these kind of mental practices or mercurial practices, spiritual practices, even in a time that's so dynamic, finishing off 2021, and when the ruler, the domicile ruler, Mars, is in this state that's maybe diminished. So this is what, this is kind of my read here, just looking at the chart. What did I write? How does the mind and thought produce conviction, right? A delayed sense of movement. And this is I guess the key thing here is the delay from the mind and then into the action. Very often there's delays. Even like right now, if I said I want to go make tea, it's not made in the instant I thought it. I have to go physically do it. With Mars being blocked here in Libra until it enters Scorpio, I think that's the key component. We can use the mind right now and the vision and the practice, even though the action that will come later will be much more greatly supported in November and dynamic, right, with Mars and Saturn squaring each other. This feels like a period of considering the mind and thought and its power to manifest in the material form at a later date. Scorpio season is next. This is gearing us up. This syzygy gears us up for Mars to be unleashed in November. Mars does ruling the syzygy. It's responsible for a lot because it's ruling the syzygy, and it's going to be unleashed before the next lunation, the next syzygy, and the birth of the next lunation cycle, because that moon, that is going to be a new moon in Scorpio with Mars. This is a full moon in Aries, but Mars with the sun, a lot of Mars in the sky. So this is my read for the syzygy. Let's move. The next chart I want to look at is this transit of the week here, and I've listed this twice. Let me just delete one. This is my Gemini, the Gemini moon, the waning Gemini moon. If I had to pick one transit, this is the one I would get involved in, because this waning Gemini moon, it again goes back into using the mental states and the writing as a restive function. I've been writing and just open up a journal. I just kind of write things like a thought or a sentence as a calming mechanism. Reading is a calming mechanism. But look at this chart. The moon in Gemini, trine its ruler, newly direct, Mercury in Libra. The ruler of Libra, Venus, receives the 2 Libra placements because now, remember, it came into Sagittarius and now it had that reception. It uplifted those Libra placements. And then there's a trine from Jupiter overcoming this moon, sending its rays, sending its beneficence into the air sign later in the zodiac, Gemini. And then you have the Venus opposition. So this moon is again touched by Venus, bona fide by Jupiter, by sign, and by the trine. And this moon is very, very much in this air trine capacity. So it's not making any hard aspect to Saturn and Mars, which is key. It's trines to Saturn and Mars, so we can build on those difficulties, and they're there to support as opposed to be dynamically activated. Now it is with the node, but if you get it later here, as it's past the North Node, maybe that wonkiness and the intensity of the nodal energy isn't as much with this Gemini moon. But of all the options this week, this is the moon I would pick. In astrology, and in electional astrology, it's kind of a fundamental thing, the ruler of the moon. What's the condition of the ruler of the moon? That's the final outcome, so many astrologers say. And that's why I like this one over something like Venus. The Venus-ruled Taurus moon squares Saturn, don't want it. You can't have an Aries moon because Mars is in fall. It's this Gemini moon where you have Mars in its own Egyptian terms in Libra, just stationed direct, and now just getting to move forward again. It's like throwing off the cast or the crutches or something. You're now getting ready you're moving the muscles and getting them working again. And it's in the Egyptian terms, its own. So it's in its chariot, protected and strong, this Mercury. That's why I love this moon. And so it's about getting ready, waning in, calming through the mercurial practices, calming through the writing, calming through the speaking as we're getting ready here to have this massive martial injection in November that I've been describing when Mars enters Scorpio and then squares Saturn. It's going to be intense, wow. So use this chart, Grand Air Trine by sign. Jupiter, Venus, both make aspects to the moon. Mercury in its own terms. We can use this to kind of plan, prepare, rest, wane, calm into this next week. So, okay, those are the 2 charts I'm going to look at. Let me now pull a card. Let me now pull one card, I've got a deck out here. I've been doing more actually live pulls with the actual decks recently. Loving that too. Love shuffling one and just pulling them in that way. But I'm going to use my random number generator. Just get one card from my deck, from the S.J. Anderson playing card deck. Okay, we've got the 16 here, and let me just pull it up. By the way, I'm going to be selling my deck that I've been using here. That will be available on my website over the next couple of months. Part of the taking off time from readings is I'm going to be doing a lot with just upgrading a lot of other things about my practice and about my offerings. So you'll be able to order that deck. And the printing service, they make great cards. It's one of the best printing services that there is. I've actually used them, and I've had this deck I'm pulling from physical copies of it a lot through the years. So I'm looking forward to making that available. So okay, let me go here. Where is this? Here we go. We got this number there. So this is the one card. I'm just going to pull one card. I'm kind of going to simplify this reading for now. Sometimes there's just a power of a one-card reading. It's simple. You only need one symbol to contemplate, and it just gives us an injection. Ace of Hearts. This is the earth element. It's the beginnings and the new flowering of our water energy of the heart, right? This the kind of central component of the heart. I was just talking about loving kindness meditation. That's what that practice is actually, is centering the heart. And this radiant, dynamic, the kind of the engine of survival, as Leonard Cohen would say, or the kind of love is surrender. That's John Lennon. Love is this kind of primary connective tissue of all reality. I believe. And the Sacred Heart of Christ, that's the other symbol I love with the heart. Even in the Christian tradition, the Sufi tradition, there's this centering of the heart. Buddhism has the Heart Sutra, the Zen Buddhist tradition, so in Mahayana schools. So that's what's coming to me here, is like the heart is central to all reality. Now, how might this relate to the astrology? What's going on in the water signs right now? Well, Sun comes in Scorpio this week, so get ready to have your heart illuminated by that sun. Remember, the heart, actually, part of it is the pain. That's how love exists, because of pain. It's a balm and a salve to pain. The deep pain of existence comes because we love people. I mean, think about the people in your life that have passed on, or whether literally or they just aren't in your life anymore, who you loved in the past, and how deep and profound it was, and then now it's gone, and there's pain there. But then there's the forgiveness that floods into the heart, and then now we can hold even those we've lost into this greater kind of mystery of love. I think the pain teaches us about love, and that's why Scorpio can be a sign of pain, ruled by Mars. There can be deep cuts and wounds. It's a fixed sign. It's kind of the fixed woundedness we carry, but love is that great balm. So that's the reading, that's the card. Thank you for being here. This is Weekly Astrology from S.J. Anderson, and yeah, I'm just glad you can be here. I hope you enjoyed this kind of new vibe, this new shortened, experience of how I'm doing this. I kind of felt more free actually doing it this way, to just kind of relax and just delineate a little bit more freely than trying to rush through and get to everything. So, talk soon. This is S.J. Anderson. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming to my channel. You can support me by liking and subscribing the video. You can always go to my website, sjanderson144.com, and schedule an astrology reading, a tarot reading, or you can support my Patreon. Helps keep the videos going. Have an awesome day. Talk soon.